Okay, this is something that I have wanted to do for some time now. I have wanted to go over Gooding the Polymath, but not quickly. I want to slow walk through the book, explain why I like this book so much, why the character was appealing to me, and what I think Mike Barron was trying to convey that may have been missed by some. Now, I'm not proclaiming to be some literary genius that understands all of the different literary devices. I am not. I just think this is a character that resonates with me. Just like in the past, there have been characters that people have liked that I don't particularly gel with like that. But then when they break down these characters and why they like these characters, I then begin to understand, okay, I think I now understand the appeal of said character. So let's do this with Gooding the Polymath. And what I would like to do is start out by reading this little letter in here that Mike Barron wrote to start the book off. I didn't know who Eric July was until he burst forth one day like Athena out of Zeus' skull. Only Eric July wasn't just Athena, he was Hermes who first realized we needed a new publisher, I mean God, and told Hephaestus to split open Zeus' skull so that Athena might be born. Now, of course, I'm probably destroying some of these, Greek mythological names, but bear with me here. Uh, Eric Eric was all these Greek gods rolled into one. Ripperverse was his Athena. Something went wrong with the US. Something horrendous, which had caused it to shatter and reform as 7 different countries, each consumed with their own survival and no longer wanting a union. Yet there was a new city, Flores Park in Texas, a brand new city, barely 50 years old, but fully grown despite its age, with a flourishing tech industry such as Projexis and Gooding Industries, a vibrant downtown, and presumably some rundown sections. There was also a new development, Exceps. That's what Eric calls the superhumans he created. They're not superheroes. Perhaps that term died with the United States. Some Exceps did good, others not so much. And I like that dynamic that these are not called superheroes, they're called Exceps. And the fact that he gets into, that idea might have died with the United States. And I could definitely see something like that being the case if the United States were to ever split, like mentioned in here. Isom was the first among them. His real name is Avery Silman, and he has a pass. They all have a pass, to which Eric hinted in the first 2 issues. He fanned his characters like a like a poker player with a winning hand. Aside from Isom, there was Alpha Core, the first Accept team up group, for all my jumbles here. Darren Fontano, an old friend of Avery's and a nightclub owner. The mysterious Yaira, the even more mysterious Bloodruth, who rides around on a dragon, and of course, the tech genius Gooding. So my old pal Chuck saw my old pal Chuck, writing a new book. I called Eric up and asked if I could write for the Ripperverse, and he said yes. Now this is really important because, look, Mike Barron is a veteran in the comic book industry writing. And when you get a guy like this, a veteran that's interested in writing for this company, in my humble opinion, this should tell you that there's something to this. This is not a flash in the pan. This is a guy who's been in the industry for years. Chuck Dixon for years. So when they want to get involved with something like this tells me they saw something in this company. They saw something in the Ripperverse. They saw staying power. These guys know, they would know, they've been in the industry long enough. Okay, he asked me to write a book about Goodyng. He didn't have a first name, so I called him Cato, who composed the first history of Rome. How about that? Cato Cato was for pointing to another nation posed to wipe Rome off the map. How about that? So Carthage. Carthage must be destroyed. So this is what Cato wrote. He told the Roman Senate over and over again they failed to destroy Carthage, so Hannibal brought Carthage to them. Yo, this is some good analogies. And to me, this is the mark of, see, when you read this, you kind of get an idea of where Mike Barron is going in his thought and where this story is going in its maturation. Goodyng the Polymath traces his visionary life from grade school through high school, college, his first gig at a big tech firm, and finally busting loose from the controls of others to founding his own business. I also trace the progress of the man who would become his nemesis, Ron Hodges, a high school bully who embarks on a path to reinvent himself as the master criminal Splatterpuss. Now, when you hear that name Splatterpuss, initially I'm like, yo, that's a weird name. But when you think about the name of some comic book characters you love, I mean, to be quite honest with you, at first glance, they're silly. If there had never been a Batman and I told you Batman, you'd be like, what? If there had never been a Superman and I said, yeah, Superman, you'd be like, what? This is nuts. So, yeah, this is a odd naming convention for a character, but sometimes it's those odd naming conventions for characters that turn out to be some of the most menacing, like Dr. Octopus. I mean, you don't think those are corny names now because the characters have grown on us. And Splatterpuss to me sounds like a super corny name. I'm not going to lie, super duper corny. But I'll give them some breathing room because I understand how these characters can grow on you. Okay, my editors, the movie making Saska sisters approved. Eric encouraged me to think up more characters, so I did. I wish I could tell you about them, but those darn NDAs. Yo, it's a lot of things coming. So the scene opens up with a house, right? House somewhere in Florist Park, no doubt. And you see some talking going on. Brian Solari's Exceptionals have sent the invaders packing. Colonel Ralph Winston remarked, and I quote, "They'll think twice before messing with Texas again." So obviously the Excepts played a pivotal role in securing Texas, I'm guessing through this entire collapse of the United States as we know it. So now you see someone calling, "Cato, coming, Mom." And the thing about Goodyng is portrayed as such a good kid, and I'm sure we know people like this, just downright good people that you would trust with anything belonging to you because they just have that kind of character. Okay, so his father asks, "What did you do in school today?" He says, "Reading, writing, arithmetic." "What kind of arithmetic?" "Calculus." "I seriously doubt they're teaching calculus to fourth graders." Gooding is a special kind of dude. He is not your average. This would be like, in my humble opinion, like the Tony Stark, the Reed Richards, the Bruce Wayne, as far as intellect of the Ripperverse. He says, I'm learning limits, differentiations, integration, and multivariable. Wow. That's definitely above me. I'll tell you that much. I am I am nothing for calculus at all. So now this is his mom says, why weren't we informed? And he says, Mr. Risky says to keep it to myself. The other kids might get jealous. And I would imagine that if kids see this dude who's a brain, you know how kids act. They see this as, oh, you're the teacher's pet, and then you get picked on, and then nothing good comes of that. So now, is this his mother or father responding? That might have been his sister. I don't know what's going on there. So, okay, so he says, I don't have a problem with it. We're proud of you, son. Mr. Risky says he phoned you and he left a message. So obviously he left a message. They never answered. And so their next response comes, you really should check your messages, dear. Why don't you call Mr. Risky and set up a meeting? So now you see the outside of the house, kid riding by on a bike, and you see Gooding reading a book. I don't know if is this supposed to be a magazine. Let me see if they kind of show. I don't know if it's let's see. I'm trying to look at it while I don't know. It might be some kind of tech magazine he's reading. I never really paid attention to that when I read through the first time. So you have these other kind of speech bubbles, idea bubbles. It says, what for? I approve. Done deal. So it's pretty much the father saying, like, what, like, really and truly, what parent would be mad that their kid is learning some advanced things that other kids are not really doing at the moment? I mean, I don't see any parent really having a problem with that. He says, to let him know we appreciate what he's doing. Mom, may I be excused? Can you put the dishes in the dishwasher? I'll do it. So look, this just seems like an overall good kid. That's what it seems like to me. Now you got this scene where he's in the classroom, teacher's talking. It looks like somebody threw something at him, so he's being picked on. Like I said, I'm not going to read all the book. I want you to go out and purchase the book if you haven't, but I will read some panels to kind of give you an idea what's going on. So again, the last scene, you see he's being picked on, obviously, by this bully. So I'll read this interaction so we kind of get an idea of what's going on between him and a bully. He says, check your schedule and go to your next class. Okay. Hey, egghead. Of course, this is the bully talking to Gooding, and he punches him in the stomach, and he falls to the ground. So this girl walks up, and she says, are you all right? I'll be in a minute. She says, Ron Hodges is an awful bully. Shouldn't you kids be in your next class? This is the one. Look, this is the thing about public school. I'm not going to lie. I hated public school. This teacher has no idea what just happened. This kid was just punched in the stomach. And instead of trying to figure out what's going on, all he does is resort to, hey, you guys should be in class. Well, aren't you going to ask, are you okay? Can I help you with anything? Is something wrong? No, just get to your class. It's crazy. Ron just hit Cato in the belly for no reason. Are you all right? Now you ask, are you all right? But you didn't ask what was going on. You just wanted them to get back to class and didn't even think anything of it at the moment. I'll live. Now, here's the thing. Somebody in my comments said that Cato had no real struggles. Now, yes, in this book, you don't really see Cato have really bad struggles because he makes good decisions. Now, bear with me. I know we need some kind of struggle in a comic book, but the reason I like this comic book, in comic books, you have all kind of different characters, but what you almost never see in a comic book character nor celebrated in culture is somebody who just did the right things, made the right decisions, and, you know, handle business like they were supposed to. So, in that regard, I like the fact that you don't really see a huge struggle with Cato, although he does have a struggle and a tension with this bully that is a thorn in his side. And this plays out throughout the book. And so Cato now responds, I'll live. What are your names? Cato Goodyng, Gina Adams. I'll take a look at the video, and if what you say is true, I'll talk to Mr. Hodges. Please don't do that. It amazes me that teachers never seem to understand you getting involved in my beef with this bully is not going to help me. You're not helping me. You're not doing anything in my favor that's going to help me at all. So he's like, yeah, don't do that. He says, why not? And Goodyng says, I'm not a snitch. I'll take care of it. Ooh, I like the way this kid gets down. He was like, yo, I'm not trying to snitch on homie. Let me handle this. And so the teacher says, don't do anything stupid. Again, now the teacher's concerned after all of this plays out. So it seems like Goodyng builds quite the relationship with this Gina. You know, they have some talks on their way out, go home. They share their pleasantries and they go, you know, on their way. The next day in school, what do you think happens? Hodges yells out, surprise, punches Goodyng in the stomach. Again, I was going to say in the face. And Gina says, you're such a creep. And Hodges says, a girl with your looks, what are you doing with a loser like him? How long are you going to let him do that? That was the last time. So look, Goodyng is a smart kid and he has some real plans. So what does he do? Man, this kid, I like the way he thinks. I don't have to hit you. I don't have to strike back. I don't have to do anything, but I will make you pay. So he gets this board that he sets up under his shirt with tax on them. You can already see how this is going to play out. Again, for those who say there's not a struggle in the book, yes, there's not the huge struggle that you normally see a hero go through on his hero's journey, but there is a struggle in this Goodyng book. I don't think he is without struggle at all. Okay. So Goodyng is at home now and he says, Mom, do you have any thumbtacks in the kitchen drawer? Okay, so now you fast forward. They're in school. Teacher's talking. Who knows what Potumkin means? Anyone? Anyone listening? Goodyng? So, of course, the teacher knows that Goodyng more than likely knows what Potemkin, I think is how you pronounce that. I don't know exactly. Anyway, so he says, Sir, it's a metaphor that carries the ultimate purpose of providing an elaborate facade designed to hide an undesirable reality. Wow, that's almost like, in some ways, I could see how Mike Barron kind of summed up some things in the Goodyng story in that right there. That's kind of interesting that I didn't even notice that first time around. This is the beauty of reading through a book multiple times. I might read through this a couple more times. Okay, I don't see how you can put up with this much longer. And this is, of course, Gina talking to Goodyng. He's listening to some music and he says, it's been a long, long time coming, but I know a change is gonna come. So he's singing Sam Cooke. He knows what's about to happen. So what happens? Out of nowhere shows up Hodges again. But when he goes to punch Goodyng, his hand is completely bloody. And he says, how? And now Goodyng is taking a video of what just happened to Mr. Hodges. Now in high school, how do you think that is going to play out? Or in grade school? I think they were in grade school at this time. Anyway, at any rate, that's not going to play out too well at all. So now it's 4 years later. They're seniors, and it looks like this is the graduation. I'm not going to read everything, but, well, actually, I'll take that back. I'm going to read what Gooding said, because some of this is important, and I think it gives you some insight into who Gooding is as a character. So he says, like a lot of you, I had to memorize Mark Antony's funeral oration. I'd hate to see it go to waste, friends, Romans, and countrymen. And someone says, no, not again. So he says, Stoicism. Those of you who took Mr. Wagner's philosophy class know that Stoicism is an ancient Greek philosophy that teaches the virtue of the highest good based on knowledge, to live in harmony with nature, to be indifferent to the vicissitudes of fortune, including pleasure and pain. Now, excuse me if I mispronounce any of these words, because invariably somebody in the comments is going to say, oh, that's pronounced this, or this is supposed to be that. Look, I'm no English major, nor do I profess to be. I do read a lot, but that doesn't mean I'm any better at pronouncing some of these words. Anyway, the discipline of desire. What do we need in order to feel fulfilled? The discipline of action. How do we engage the world around us? The discipline of assent. Can we learn to love our lives as they really are? That's kind of heavy. I like it. And now you get into this scene on maybe this looks like a lakefront here, and this man shows up to ask Gooding some questions. So I'm going to read this interaction just because I think these are things that are actually important to the story. And as you see, there's things you might miss if you just read through this book looking for like some extreme action. This book is building a character profile of Gooding so you understand who exactly you're dealing with here. So he says, Mr. Gooding, I'm Ross Broderick from the Hartman University. Have you heard of us? Yes, sir. Hartman is famous for its health and mechanical engineering programs. That's what I'd like to talk to you about. So obviously, Gooding, being the genius that he is already being approached by some colleges, because colleges that are Ivy League and that a lot of good people come out of, they seek other good people to fill the school. They want to get these people in. So he says, we'd like to offer you a science scholarship. Seriously? Absolutely. I read your piece on boomboxes. Don't you hate those things? You're sitting at a stoplight and a throbbing bass pulls up next to you. Your solution is ingenious. Have you put it into practice? It's just a theory. So he had a theory about ending some of this loud noise from the boomboxes. Hartman doesn't offer science scholarships, Mr. Broderick. What company are you with? Interesting. Now see, this gets to the perceptiveness of Gooding, right? So again, building this character profile, getting you to understand what kind of character he is. Something is said, he's taking it all in, but he's no dummy. He's not just taking this at face value. He knows, wait a minute, something else is going on. Like you're not from this college. I know what they offer. He's done his research. He's looked into these colleges. So these little details don't slip away from him. Now, I want you to keep that in mind, because in this regard, this is a little bit of, I'd say, Bruce Wayne-esque detective mind work. And so the man says, see, that's why we want to recruit you. That's why we want to recruit you. Would you like a beer? I'm 17. Can't have a beer. Well, let's get some lemonade and a hot dog. So they sit down for their lemonade and hot dog. And he says, have you heard of Madwire? They make phones. Among other things, full ride for your masters, including room and board and monthly stipend. Let me think about it. Let me think about it, sir. So this company is offering him what seems like a good deal. They're recruiting this kid early. All right, so now you fast forward and you're at Fort Pickens, Libertine, Texas. Hodges, get in there. Sir, yes, sir. Go. So this is Hodges, obviously, doing his thing. Looks like some kind of military training camp that he's at. So maybe he signed up for the Texas Army. And, they're going back and forth doing this, what do they call it? The pogo stick battle? Well, I guess not really a pogo stick because the pogo sticks have the padding on the end. So they're doing like a stick battle. Okay. A touch, I do confess. So they're doing some fighting here. And it seems like Hodges continuing with, his MO, decided to join the military, let out some of that aggression and make it do what it do. So again, they go back and forth with their fight and someone yells out, Hodges, you okay? I'll survive. Eric disarmed you with the phrase and took advantage of your hesitation. It's a very smart play. You don't expect a raw grunt to a quote. You don't expect a raw grunt to quote Shakespeare. You don't indeed. Okay, so now fast forward a little bit from that. Why did you sign up? This is Texas. This is my country. I want to give back. You? I want to kill people. So that's what Hodges says. So this is clearly a sick dude and has been a sick dude from the beginning. And this is where you get his backstory, you get what's going on, and you get the problems, the inherent problems that this young man has. And I see in this book, what I see in this book is not a complete story, trying to get my back adjusted, but the beginning of a story. And that's why I'm not so bent out of shape about the stuff that was left out. This is book number 1. Have you ever gone back and read some of the first issues of the books you loved? I implore you to go do that. I think you'll be shocked at what's not there because I think nostalgia sometimes colors our lenses. Okay, so now we see this car pulling up. You have arrived at your destination. And now he has a question mark in his head. Goodyng. So now the dialogue starts. What are you grinning about? Gina, what are you doing here? They have a great pre-med program. I'm not stalking you. This is not a coincidence. So Gina, apparently, all this time has something for Goodyng. She probably did some research, found out where he was going to go, and she was like, yeah, I'm going where this dude is going. The good thing about this book, sometimes love stories can go the right way in a book. This is one of the issues I've always taken with books like Spider-Man. Like, finally in Ultimate Spider-Man, we're getting Peter Parker with Mary Jane, but why did it take so many years? Why did it have to take this long? And I like the fact in Goodyng that they're getting you to the point where the dude gets the girl. There's nothing wrong with a good story in comic books. My goodness, I don't know why this is such a unique concept to some people. Okay, so he says, so now it seems like they're in some kind of study hall, or maybe they in their apartment. Yeah, maybe in an apartment dorm room or whatever. All right. Do you want to do something Friday night? Like what? Ultimate Spinach Rivals playing in the Wrath Cellar. I can't. I can't. I have to serve dinner at Sir Bart's. Huh? At Sir Bartholomew's, the church. "Oh yeah, why don't you come? Why don't you come with? Afterwards, we can go to the Wrath of Cellar." So look, this is seems to be a good girl. She has something good going on. She has some morals about her, and I believe this is setting up the moral clarity and uprightness of Gooding as a character, which I like a whole lot. This is why this is one of my favorite characters. Me serve dinner? Why not? So now you fast forward to the scene of them, you know, uh, doing their thing in this church, and then they go to the Rat Cellar to see Ultimate Spinach Rivals, which is a band that I guess both of them like. Now you fast forward to another scene. Let her fly. So there's some kind of military operation going on. And who do you think's going to be involved in this military operation? Probably going to be your boy, Mr. Hodges. Maybe not. Maybe something else is going to happen. Let's see. And you see this guy, he says, "What?" Doesn't know what's going on. So he says, get them all. So obviously there's some things going on. This dude is blasted straight to the dome, some kind of military operation going on here. Okay, so it says, Ronald Hodges, the Texas Military Appeals Court finds you guilty of theft of contraband, possession with intent to distribute, and bringing shame to the army of the great country of Texas. So this dude he is constantly in trouble. He just cannot stay away from trouble. This is just that kind of dude. And what you have in Gooding is the tale of two cities. You have the tale of one guy that is just an absolute positive basket case. And then you have the tale of another guy that has his head on straight, going the straight and narrow, doing exactly what he's supposed to do. Tale of two cities. This court hereby sentences you to 12 years of hard labor. That's crazy. 12 years of hard labor. So now he's in Camp Tarragon Marine Corps Base Camp. How'd you boys like to get out of here? What's the catch? You ever hear of Procurement Inc., International Military Contractors? So obviously, dudes in this prison are, they're trying to commandeer some of them for this military contract. So now you see 4 days later, and it looks like they're plotting an escape. They choke out the guard, and now they're going to leave. So clearly, this guy got in contact with them about joining this group. And how do you think this is going to work out? These dudes escape. There's this car waiting for them outside. So clearly, it's like this off the books thing where you get people that have been discarded. We all know how this works. If you've read any kind of book or comic book, you know how this goes is. Names and birth dates. Ronald Hodges, Eric Speece. So, and then they say their birth dates, which it has that blacked out. It says, I'm Gunther Morgan. This is Willis Xavier. Procurement Inc. is an independent military contractor with global reach. By accepting our assistance, you agree to abide by our rules. We understand. You will be flown to Pueblo, where you will be debriefed, undergo a physical, and take some tests. Now, this never goes right? Stuff like this. Like they had to know something was up if this was going on. So now you see this private jet landing near Colorado. This whole, like I said, this book is building you toward something bigger. It's not giving you that something bigger right out the gate, but it's building you towards something bigger. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do this a little different. I'm going to stop right here on this page and I'm going to do this review in maybe a few videos so I can get through this without making it too big and too cumbersome. So I will end right there and just say, what do you think so far? What do you think about Goodyng the Polymath so far and the story? Now, to some people, you might say to yourself, well, they didn't give us enough detail in some areas. But again, this is book one. Here's my take. You might see it differently. I don't really need you to give me all of the details. I don't need you to give me a bunch of detail at all on book one. Your world building. I understand what world building entails. You give me a skeleton of who these characters are, what happened in their life, and I can kind of do some guesswork as to what's going to happen next. But these are just the primary building blocks. And I really myself enjoy the primary building blocks of Goodyng the Polymath. And I think this is going to be overall a great series.